just again like to welcome you to our law enforcement meeting of Wednesday, September the 8th. And so with that, let's ascertain all of those members who are present, and we're going to start with our county coroner, Mr. Gessner.
Introduce yourself, Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Gessner, the coroner.
Rhonda Showers, Crisis Response Team.
Donna Sample, Options Center for Independent Living and community member.
Chief Barber.
Chief Barber, Bradley PD.
Then Lieutenant, Kankakee County Sheriff's Office.
Al Swinford, Manteno PD.
The Kankakee PD.
Lori Gadboy, Executive Committee, NAACP.
County Board, NAACP.
Claudia No, community member.
Chief Anderson, Bradley Police Department.
Lake County, Kankakee County Sheriff.
Theodis Pace, President, Kankakee County Branch, NAACP.
Lieutenant Mason, Bradley PD.
Thank you again. I'd just like to thank you again. There's a
With law enforcement, examples, sharing video or other evidence to assist with the gun violence community. Discussion on building a sense of trust in the community by implementing a boys or girls club where youth can be mentored on a regular basis. Lori mentioned the essays program Jump that already exists in our community. And then Chief Basswater discussed time delays on getting video evidence from community members and gave praise to the juveniles and others that have come forward to assist police. We also mentioned how the new reform laws allow juveniles to be released on violent crimes, and they continue those criminal activities either while parents are aware or they do nothing about it. That's pretty much it.
thank you. Reading the minutes, can we get a second to approve the minute? Second by Stephen Hunter. Are there any questions or deletion of the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Under item 4, discussion of our Kankakee County response team of future training. Chief Swinford, I don't know where we are with your committee, so are we gonna maybe think about adding some other individual? We know we did talk about possibly adding and possibly future training. Nothing? Okay, all right. Okay, I'm gonna try to expedite a few things on the agenda. And so I know we have Professor Stroud here from ONU. And so we were aware earlier that we talked about possibly doing training in service for other local professionals. So I guess that could be another talking point that your committee can meet on how we can engage other professionals. And I know Mr. Hunter always talked about how can we also engage the various high schools, like this high school class president and other youth to engage them into the response team. So with that, with item C, going down with Chief Passwater and Sheriff Downing, with the recent incident that we had around the courthouse, I did receive at least 2 calls, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Donna, who it will be the spokesperson for the response team, a talking point with Chief Passwater and Sheriff. How would we have, and Chief Swinford, was there a possibility of how we could have possibly engaged the response team into that? And we can just talk about it.
Given the dynamics of that situation, I don't know that there would have been a role for it. I don't think there's any question what happened.
Okay.
So I don't know. There just might have been an unnecessary complication to involve them in it somehow. Unless, Donna, you think separately, but that's a pretty clear-cut situation.
To me, it was too. It's very clear cut.
Okay.
There was any room for
Microphone.
I think it was pretty clear cut. I don't think there was any room for us to step in on any platform to that situation.
And it didn't involve a police shooting in any way, so.
Huh?
And the police weren't involved in the shooting
correct,
itself.
Right. So I just indicated it would be something that we could dialogue about today. So,
Mr. Chairman, there's something for us to think about, because, the local media.
Microphone.
I even had people from out of the region calling and talking about that as well too. And I agree, there was so much coverage on the incident, and not only pictures, people talking. So it was clearly discussed in terms of what the dynamics were.
anyone else? The only other piece that I have, and like I said, it was actually 2 members of the response team that actually called me. Belon Jordan and I think I saw Reggie at one of the East Side football practice, and it was just a general conversation. And I mentioned it, that we will have the discussion. The only other problem that, if you want to consider a problem, that I had might have been the press conference, sheriff, mayor, and chief, is that even with Commander Alston being there, it would have been a little better if, I think, from a community perspective, we'd have invoked a little more diversity there. Maybe, I don't know, I know I saw it via Zoom, but would have been if we could have gotten maybe Donna or someone else from the response team there, just to, as relates to the community perspective. And again, this is a talking point, And what I'm saying is, what I saw, or what most people would have seen, would have been 5 white males and Commander Alston. So could we have maybe gotten another community leader or the chairman of our public safety committee would have been involved, which would have been Alderman Brown. So
We didn't receive any bad feedback from that. I mean, I never heard any negative feedback.
No, I didn't, no.
Okay.
I didn't say it was,
Oh, okay.
No, this is dialogue. I'm saying,
Okay, yeah,
me,
so-
I'm watching. I'm just saying, so, no, I'm not saying you received any negative
Yeah.
feedback.
I'm just, I mean, when we're putting it all together, I'll be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
we're just we're focusing on getting the information out, what's going on in the scene. I mean, that wasn't even something that we kind of discussed, the makeup, the people behind me or whatever. I mean, it wasn't, we just brought those people over because they were involved with what we were doing at the time.
But millions of people were looking at that, and it's a matter of optics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think, because the mayor and I had a conversation about that too, and maybe this is stretching a little bit. Commander Austin was in the back. You saw, him a little bit, but, and I know that you're being a pragmatist, and mayor being a pragmatist, the sheriff, but if you had one of the Martinez or somebody there because it involved Hispanics, what I'm saying is not, a complaint or anything, but, you got to deal with, millions of people from all over the country taking a look at that,
Yeah. And the reason I brought it, it's no different, sheriff, mayor, and chief. What was that, Jim? Thursday, you and I was together? High school? Thursday, Friday. So I'm at the high school, but we got Channel 5 News at Kankakee High School. I don't know, everybody saw that? I mean, I'm serious. Did anyone?
I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, Channel 5 News was here regarding Kankakee High School. So
Regarding what?
things that are going on at Kankakee High School regarding scheduling, lack of staff, blah, blah, blah. I'm there because I'm talking to the superintendent. There's supposed to be a group of parents who are complaining regarding academics or scheduling at the high school. So I show up, and it's, again, what was that? All white parents, all right? Jim goes by because he's on his way to a meeting at the high school, so he U-turned. So it's he and I, and the state's attorney, in his rare form, gets in a conversation, confrontation, discussion. Okay, discussion with the reporter from Channel 5. And what I'm saying is that here last week, negative publicity, we got Channel 5 here, and so the question is, do you come to Kankakee when we do some things positive? Okay, Channel 5, Channel 9, News is here, and so it's not a good take when the things that we do. We have a state convention. This coming starts Friday to Sunday. And I call, I don't know, Chief, I don't know if I know I call you, and I call Passwater. Chief Barber, I don't know if I call you, but at the Illinois Sheriff Association up at Tinley Park,
The Chiefs Association.
I was a panelist about building trust. It was well attended. Dialogue was good. I mean, folks from Macomb, Springfield, the chief from Springfield, Bloomington, the chief from Hazelcrest just got sworn in as the new president of the association. So it's a good dialogue. So what I'm saying is the things that we're doing here, people trying to reclaim it, trying to figure out, well, how do we have a relationship with the village of Bradley, the city of Kankakee, moments. So I'm dialoguing, and you have the chief from Springfield, Sangamon County, and we're dialoguing how we can bridge this gap and build trust between law enforcement and our local community. So I'm saying, by, believe it or not, diversity, Stevie used the word optic, how people see things, it only helps build that trust. They already know, believe me, these people know Commander Alston is the commander of the police department. They know Mayor Curtis. They know Sheriff, but if it's someone else in the community, in other words, it's just the trust thing. And I know what the chief said, well, because it's the same thing. So you wasn't thinking about how things might appear, but again, it's a negative slap in our face when we get national or either the Chicago media come down, and it's always something negative. And I'm telling you, our state's attorney nailed it on Friday. And so that is how we appear things, and
No.
how you were in a meeting. You were in a meeting when you got the call, correct?
Yeah.
Right. You
So
know,
all
so-
I'm saying is that there could be a tweak in terms of, you hadn't planned on something like this, but boom, you're in the middle of chairing a meeting and that stuff went down, and wow.
Yeah.
You had
And-
Mayor of Bourbonnais there, you running the Karma meeting, all these other folks there, and we kind of freaked out too when you said there's been a shooting and 2 down and stuff. I mean, you can't orchestrate that kind of stuff.
But the other piece is that, and I know I mentioned it to one or two other political individuals, and I have a conversation with the chief and Mayor Curtis. I think it's some things that we can put in place which will only enhance public safety in our city, and I'll convey that. And I think it should come out of our public safety committee of some things that I think, and it was, I don't know if it was Alderman Barron or O'Brien, but it was just a off-cuff type conversation. But it's just some things that I think it's just that every time something happens, it's negative, and people don't talk about the positive. Case in point, Chief Barber rolling out the body cams. I don't know, have you publicized that? We did a press release already?
Not a press release, but we've been on social media.
Okay. I think we probably need a press release, this is my thought, or better yet, I don't know, a press conference. Because that's one of those buzzwords that people are saying, that I believe that Lieutenant Mason or Officer Stroud now have a body cam, and it protects everyone. So that's I'm not sure. Mayor Watson and I talked last week regarding the body cam. So I'm just saying, maybe it's just a thought, Anderson. Chief Barber. Maybe you might want to do that press conference.
In a press conference like that, going off what you. In a press conference like that, going off of what your point that you and Mr. Hunter just made, it would be beneficial to have members of the faces that you, like
Yeah.
you said, look different.
I had talked with the chief about some photo ops, because that is something that think about the incidents that we know we've had, and along with Chief Phelps.
Yeah, I mean,
with
I'm always concerned about. I'm concerned about the creating a photo op.
No.
We actually have a relationship.
Right.
So I think in that manner, I think that would probably, if we decide to go that route, I think that would be
Right.
appropriate.
But you said Facebook, the social media, but the community knows those individuals that are going up Kennedy, Route 50 there, should know that, okay, I'm just playing back with Chief, the situation that we had with the Chief of Bourbonnais, with the cam in the squad. Now we got body cams, and we can address that. When you guys go domestic violence, going to homes now, and all of those kind of things. And I might seem to be bouncing around, but it's also, I thought sure that I could probably get Senator Sims here today, and that's why Jim is here, and that's why some other people here, because we still need to clean up some of this stuff in HB 3653. Okay, it's a lot of things that we need to do, but like this coming Friday, Saturday, I was just looking at the emails last night. You got Champaign, Macomb, a couple of other chiefs that's going to be down at the NAACP State Convention of all places in Macomb at Western Illinois this weekend, and that's
It's the Harvard of the Midwest, the Otis.
Yes, I know. Well, thank you. But they're bringing in those individuals with Mike, what's his name, from Springfield?
Bob Moore?
Bob Moore.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so Bob Moore is chairing it, and so he's bringing folks in because now the other 42 branches of the state can go out and say, okay, this is what they're doing in Kankakee because of the dialogue we had the other week up at Tinley Park.
Guys, let me say this, all due respect, Mr. Chairman, let me say this. June 2nd, 2020. Sheriff, June 2nd, 2020. You guys have got to remember what transpired. The day before, we were supposed to have the rally at the mall. And then we were told at noon, with you and I and Mason on the phone at noon, that we couldn't have it. Made a phone call to the sheriff, boom. In a matter of 2 or 3 hours, we had it locked down. More importantly, the next day, June 2nd, we were out to the fairgrounds through the assistance of the sheriff and other folks. Had 700 people, hot as hell, probably the hottest day of the year, hot as hell that day. And you had Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Hispanics out there in the blazing sun. You know, it spoke to the credibility and the optics of law enforcement working with people of color and other organizations. That's all I'm saying, guys. It looks, I mean, you almost had to almost start crying when you looked out there at all those different people working together with law enforcement. And all we're saying is that in terms of optics, credibility, content, facts, you know, because facts don't lie, that there was a divergent group of people from all walks of life throughout the county who were there at that particular event. And all we're saying is you got to tweak it a little bit. That's all. It's not anything negative.
But this morning, when you called me 7, whatever time you called me this morning, I'm on the phone with another president, and they said, the sheriff calling you? I said, oh, I just said down. It's down. I said, it's the sheriff. So again, here people think we might be Mayberry with Barney Fife somewhere, but it's not. We have a relationship. It's not that I can pick up the phone and call the commander, Chief Passwater, Chief Swinford, you know, the Little League star back there, you know, Basin, you know, and then I go back to Little League and the mayor. So I'm saying, you know, this coming week, we're trying to take this on the road to say that the only way that the chief, the new chief in Bloomington is who now?
Jamal Simmons.
Jamal Simonton. Okay? And the chief from Springfield and Simonton was both 1 and 2 for the chief of police in Bloomington. So I'm there and I'm saying, well, hey man, Simonton, former student, St. Anne. He from, oh, I didn't know he's from Kankakee, St. Anne, School District 302. Pace, how you know him? Blah, 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 blah. And so the things that we do here, we might not always agree, but guess what? It's a relationship. At least you can communicate. Everybody knows the sheriff and I, we're not going to always agree, but there's a relationship there. And if we always agree on everything, then there's a problem. So I think what we're doing here is far-fetched. You're not going to get a meeting with, you got the county coroner, you got the state's attorney, and how many state's attorneys going to make a U-turn when he see the president of the NAACP parked with Channel 5 News, and I'm trying to figure out, well, what they're going to do. We pulled over, and we're going to listen to the interview that these people are saying of the situation that they have with educating their kids in School District 111. So yeah, Channel 5 was here, and again, those are the things that we have to deal with. So Chief Barber, if we can do that press release, talk about those statistics that's nationally. Why is it pertinent that Lieutenant Mason and Deputy Chief and the other individuals have their body cams on because it benefits those people that we represent. And then again, if we go back initially, that we're talking about the 10 shared principles, the sheriff and I think a couple of weeks was talking about it. And I also mentioned it to the group at the association meeting. It's that patrolman every day. And I think it was Maywood. Yeah, one of the officers in Maywood is saying that upon the shift, they have a way of trying to make sure the officers are aware of those responsibilities of the 10 shared principle. But that patrolman is the face of the village of Bourbonnais, the city of Kankakee, and the village of Bourbonnais or Moments. That patrolman that patrols 6 to 2, 2 to 10, 10 to 6, he's the face of our police department. And so whatever he or she does, that's how it affects us, because here, most of us are all administrators. It's that patrolman is the face. So, and we need to make those citizens aware that these are the initiatives that we're doing to build that trust between law enforcement and our respective communities. So, yeah.
Just as so many people purposely take to social media to create negative situations, I think we have to be as purposeful to take to social media. Whether we care for social media or not, it is what it is in today's world. And so I just reflect back on the picture that was taken here when those of us who are part of the response team received our certificates. I posted that on my Facebook page. I got a lot of phone calls, text messages, instant messages. Wow, I didn't know that existed. That's a great group. That's a diverse group. So I think we have to be very purposeful in capturing these interactions, not just when something happens at the high school and the group comes together, not just when there's a shooting and the group comes together. I think if we're trying to build something in this community, it has to be consistent and it has to be purposeful. And we have to show, yes, there's a diverse group in this room, but when we leave here, we all leave in and of ourselves. The community needs to see us together, planning, working. And it may be as simple as someone puts it on their Facebook page and tags everyone, so that we can share it. But we've got to really flood the community with there's work going on behind the scenes that the people don't know about. They don't really need to see my white face at a situation, and they don't know who I am the other 364 days of the year and what I'm involved in. So I think that if we can become more purposeful in this process and all take a little piece of the pie to say we're going to take some initiative to share a little bit more. There was recently a photo of a police officer doing something with a child. I was like, oh my, we need to see that more than once a year if we're looking at building trust here and getting away from this negative place where we're at. I've lived in Kankakee my whole life. I know what Kankakee is, but what we're reflected as on TV, on social media, is not a place anybody wants to come to. We're responsible for taking that back.
Okay, and you're right, Chief Passwater. I didn't get the officer's name, but last week one of your officers was in Beckman Park. Practice was concluding. He came out, start at the Eastside football practice. Everybody just gathered, and I don't know if it got on Facebook or social media, but one of the officers was out there with the kids tossing the football last week. It's little things that we can do to try to build that trust, because here we're all together, but there's one or two other people that's in the community can say some things that would supersede Hunter or myself, or even Jim Rowe. We've seen it happen. So it's what we do and how we perceive things to be, which benefits our community respectively. So, yes, ma'am.
It was a crisis for our community. I was in a lockdown building in downtown Kankakee, reassuring people, and if our team was further down the road, I would have liked to see a member from our team giving a statement. Because at some point, we want the community to wonder, what's the crisis response team say about this in a controversial issue? So it's going to take time for them to get to know who we are, our purpose, that our perspective is different and set apart from the police. And so I think more opportunities to give a response or a statement in circumstances that are less controversial would build the voice of the team in more of a controversial environment.
Okay, thank you. I want to deal with the HB 3653.
Can I ask you anything, let me just ask you this, Sheriff Downing, Mayor Curtis, Chief Passwater. I know you guys had a post-incident discussion on this, right? And you reviewed all the intricacies, specificities, do's, don'ts, pluses, minuses, whatever. What can you impart to us that may benefit us in terms of the incident that happened?
Robin,
You know, I think we had an excellent turnout. I mean, behind the scenes, all these agencies work together real well, and that we never called for help one time, but we had 40 or 50 officers there, so I mean, that just
I heard
shows how.
62, 64, I heard.
I don't know, we didn't count them, so, but, I think some other things that we looked at was possibly just, the way we organized at our department, and not separate things out, creating a staging area and stuff like that. Because we go to so many crime scenes, that we kind of do it our way, and when you bring everybody else in from different agencies, that you need to have a more uniform way of doing it. So that's kind of just what we talked about there. In the general, the community was real good. They were real cooperative. I think some of the stuff that we were able to get out in the media right away, within maybe 30 minutes of being there, was beneficial. That people knew that we already had one in custody. At the time, we thought we had another suspect, but he ended up not being a suspect. He was a witness in it. So we were able to get that out real quick to the sheriffs. I mean, not sheriffs, but the mayor's Facebook, and through the Daily Journal was right there too. And we talked to them directly and gave them some information. Other than that, we think overall it went well. I mean, those things are hard to deal with, and just the amount of officers and resources that we had. But it seemed like communication might have been a little issue too, but most of that stuff works it out. It's not going to be perfect in any sense, no matter what happens, who deals with it. So overall, we think everything went pretty fairly well.
Well, I can tell you one thing. What I saw was a lot of positive comments regarding those officers converging and going to the scene. And it was because I was out here at River Road Park, and I guess, I don't know, some person was actually video live doing everything. And so a lot of the things that was on social media was positive regarding those 60-plus officers and dealing with the crisis and the situation. So,
And I think everybody acted professionally.
yeah.
I mean, there was no question about it. Those officers did arrest that guy immediately right there. If that was maybe in a different community, even Chicago, that subsequent was shocked, because he threw the gun down right in front of officers, but he didn't do that. It's just, we handle things differently, I think, down here, and I never heard one complaint from anybody about how it was handled. I think the community was pretty proud and realized that they have a pretty professional police and law enforcement in the area.
Yep. Anyone else? Mayor?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, obviously, is the law enforcement and all the other teams that were there, but we've even in my office just, that day was something that I had never experienced. So even when, Chief Passwater and Sheriff Downey said we're having a press conference in 15, 20 minutes, I kind of scurried to figure out how we doing this. I mean, do we have a podium? Do we have anything? So we learned from it too. So we've even put together in my office of whether it's a natural disaster or hopefully something like, hopefully we never have to deal with this again.
Yeah.
But we put little things about just some of the comments you made there, about how you handle the press conference, how do you set up, where do you place it, so that it's more organized next time and getting it out to social media. So, I think it came off. I think everybody did an outstanding job, especially, the law enforcement agents. They train for this all the time, and the reality actually happened that day, and they handled it excellent. But, even from a small internal standpoint, we're looking at it from how do we lock down our city hall better, quicker? How do we prepare our employees? How do we handle the press? What do we need available next time? So we're putting it all together, hopefully to put I'll call it the steps and the program together that we never have to use again.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay.
I would just follow behind the mayor with that, just as they had to put together, what do we do? What does this look like? This response team needs to do the same thing, because we can't go out there, ill-prepared and think that we're representing anything to the community. And so in our meeting, we had discussed getting together and what is an official statement? What does the statement look like? How are we coming together on that? And so as this moves forward, and I know we were going to look at getting additional training, everyone who is currently on the response team wants to take the training again. We felt like there was so much information that we could learn from repeating that. So we all want to take it again, feel like we are better educated on the perspective of the police, which was really quite eye-opening. And then we have to pull together, how do we do that? What does that look like for us? So as you guys wanted to be prepared and looked correct, we want to do that as well. So I think we have some work on our end that we have to do as well before we come out. We can be present, we can be that representation in the community, but before we speak on behalf of anything, I think we have to get our ducks in a row as a group and come on one accord. We had a meeting after our last meeting. We met actually that Saturday out at Indian Oaks.
Yeah.
Great meeting, a lot of good conversation.
Can you elaborate on what transpired out of that with Chief Swinford and them?
Yeah, so we had a great meeting. There were quite a few of us in attendance, and one thing that we did leave there with is that we have more work to do. That was our first collaborative effort of coming together as a committee in and of itself, and we realize we have more work to do. We have more understanding to come to of what our actual purpose is. And Verlon was actually the one who said, I'm not interested in coming out every time there's a shooting. And so we have to know those boundaries. What does this response team, what mobilizes them? What is their place? And so if we are coming out in an issue of civil unrest, that's one thing. But if we're coming out every time there's a shooting in Kankakee, that's a whole different look to this group. And I don't think anybody was interested in coming out every time there was a shooting. So we have to understand our purpose, and we discussed that quite a bit at that meeting, and then to be able to come on one accord. And we also wanted to get together and just do like some practice scenarios of statements to make sure that the statement is concise and that it's transparent. So as a group, we have to come together, and I know that was going to try to take place after another training was scheduled, because we do want more people around the table. We want to make sure that we have good diversity in this group as well. And I guess just repeat the training and the official statement of the group. We want to make sure that whoever comes forward, like I was actually in Florida when that shooting happened, so if someone would have been called out, we got to make sure that whoever's coming out has that same language that is represented by the group.
Right.
So within that, we have to do that same type of work.
Okay, so we need to get with the committee, Chief Swinford and Mr. Basin on the upcoming. We want to do the training again. So, okay, thank you. Going back to 3653, there would be Sheriff Downing and State's Attorney Rowe and any other officers. If we could pin item 1 through 5 or whatever, that we could have a letter pen that we can send to Senator Sims of our concerns of 3653. And because I know actually they were trying to get him at the convention this coming weekend, but I have a person who actually, have a personal relationship with him. And so I've been trying to use that one to get him here in person versus a virtual, So again, our next meet, we need to look at what our meeting in November will look like. But then again, if we could write those concerns that we still have with that, and it would be coming instead of from necessarily the NAACP, but it would come from our crisis response team and the NAACP on behalf of law enforcement in the county. So what's your thought on that?
Well, I know that there are certainly more things to address in 3653.
Came out in their association meeting.
So when they came out with the trailer bill, I think it was 4334, I think was the trailer bill. And there's still more to work on. As of right now, as of today, I found out that there has been no contact with law enforcement or legislators regarding a second trailer bill, which is a little bit disappointing. I think there's a couple issues that are still out there associated with the trailer, or with 3653. One is qualified immunity.
Yep.
I think that's still on the table, and that would be catastrophic. And then there's cashless bail, which again would be catastrophic, and would go against the name of 3653, the safety bill. Cashless bail is not keeping people safe. I have the jail rosters right here, all 510 inmates who are in our custody. Some obviously are charged, are federal charges, but the ones who are local and what they're charged with, and this doesn't even include their background. So there's a lot of things out there that determine, and Jim can probably explain this probably better than me, but I'll give it a shot. There are things that determine bonds when they're setting bonds, and some of that is their prior arrest record, their prior criminal record. So two people who've been charged with the same thing who get different bonds, there's a reason for that. It's not because they don't like this person or they like this person. It's because maybe this one person has a criminal record the length of your arm, and the other one may be a first-time offender. That's where you get into this whole discrepancy about, well, this isn't fair. His bond for the same charge was significantly more than this guy. But Jim, in our office, we go through these periodically. We go through these lists to determine, hey, look, this guy's charged with this. It's a misdemeanor. It's nonviolent. He probably wouldn't even serve this much jail time. Let's work on getting him out of jail. I mean, that's the idea behind, the cashless bail, is they want people out of jail so they can, defend themselves better with their attorney, whatever the reason is. But I can tell you on this list there's 510 on this list of the locals, of which are about 250. If you can identify 5 people on that list that should be out of jail, identify them. Somebody else tell somebody who should be released, not me or not Jim. But that's what cashless bail does. Cashless bail says, oh, heck, here's an offense. You might have a record a mile long, but by God, we have cashless bail, so you're going to get out of jail. So what's that do? That causes a burden on Jim's office, causes a burden on the public defender's office, causes a burden in the clerk's office, it causes a burden in the probation office, it causes a burden with police agencies who now have to rearrest these people, which then create another contact with police and offenders, which just begs itself of an incident happening that somebody's putting on YouTube. So cashless bail is probably the biggest issue we got as a community. Qualified immunity is more of a law enforcement issue, but cashless bail does not keep our community safe. And it's something that has to be addressed before January 1st of 2023.
So that, in my eyesight, then that would be something that need to be discussed this coming weekend and through our state lawmakers, that they can take back to Springfield. But I'd like to meet with you, Jim, and whoever else, that where we can pin this and put it on the letterhead, forward it to the state conference of the branches, where it can get to Senator Sims. And because there's a number of the branches do not also, leadership that do not agree with 3653.
Right.
You know, so I just think that's something positive that we can do.
Agreed.
And again, Donna mentioned in her dialogue at least 3 times relating to, again, building the trust of our, between law enforcement agencies, state's attorney, and our respective communities. We have to maintain that trust versus an officer stopping a person at 2 a.m. and the first thing that person say is that, "Are you going to shoot me?" We don't need that. I mean, they have to feel comfortable at a traffic stop. And again, the body cams and the other things that we do help build those bridges, and and the steps to get there to make sure everything is positive. Yes, sir.
What bothers me, and it kind of scared me when you said this, Chief, that there's no trailer bill that you're aware of, because, you're knee-deep in the Illinois Sheriff's Association. You would know what's pending between now and veto session in, was that November? That, my God, that needs to be addressed. And please keep us, in tune in terms of what's going on, because if the Illinois Sheriff's Association doesn't have somebody who carries the water, for them against that bill, we're in trouble. Counties are in trouble. And from what
We have somebody to carry the water, it's just nobody's listening. Nobody's thirsty.
okay.
Anyone else? So our next date would be corresponding with what today is the 8th, so we're looking at November, would be November 10th? Same, November 10th. Is that good?
What's the holiday?
November 10th?
Now, when
That's
is
a
it?
Wednesday. It's probably after, is November 8th? Huh?
What's that?
Yeah, November 11th would be Veterans Day.
So we're good with the 10th then?
Yeah, I think so.
Somebody's on vacation.
So, Chief Swinford and Lieutenant Mason and Hunter Basin, maybe we can get together with Donna to look at how can we train those individuals, and we can revisit the list that we have. I know there was 1 or 2 other people didn't make those trainings who would want to be a part of the response team. I have a note here, Donna, that I'll meet with Sheriff Downing and Paulette, and it's just a thought that we can come up with some type of attire, a polo shirt or something for all those members, so we can get those sizes and maybe, color or whatever we would like. But I think that would be good, at least have a polo, something of an attire to represent those people who are members of the response team. Yes.
I just have a question. We've talked quite a bit about the response team towards the community. I'm just curious, how does the police feel about the response team?
Sheriff Swinford, Sheriff Downing, Chief Swinford. The
Oh, yeah.
comments that would,
I think I'm supportive of it. We were involved in the discussion from day one. We're really pushing forward, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think the response team was initially set up because of things that happened in other places where the information could get out there that is accurate information, and hopefully unbiased information, where it's not law enforcement telling you what's going on, it's not the NAACP telling you what's going on. It's a separate entity of people, community people, who people know and trust, who can tell you, yes, this happened, no, this didn't happen, and on and on. So I think from that standpoint, I think we're very supportive of it because, God forbid something happens. And somebody mentioned earlier about social media and how fast things get out. I mean, this shooting down at the courthouse, I mean, there was stuff out there on social media as police were responding. And so, I think it's important that, one message get out. And again, we can discuss whether we should have had the response team there for this. It wasn't a police-involved shooting, which we knew that up front fairly quickly. So, would it have been advantageous to have somebody there? Possibly. But I think, Chief Passwater, the mayor, did a great job in providing accurate, timely information so that it could get out there and notify the people. And the fact that the police were not involved in the shooting, I think then all of a sudden the attention then kind of says, okay, well, the police aren't involved, so now we can move forward. But yeah, I think it's a great thing to have.
Anyone know Chief Sylvester Bush? Anyone? Trying to think. Anyway, they're saying, he's the new chief at Peoria.
Haven't
No.
met him. Where'd he come from,
Marsha, Brandon, Hefner. Anyway, they're looking at these individuals. This is from Mitchell Davis, the new president. And so they are looking at those individuals that will be on this panel at the NAACP convention this coming Saturday.
So Hefner is the U.S. Marshal of the Central
Yeah.
District.
Okay, so, yeah. So he's going to be one of the panel.
Good guy, really
Yeah.
good guy.
All right. So that's what, so those are the things. So believe it or not, what did we meet when the group from Peoria came? Was it here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, for the individuals, Sheriff Curtis, we've had other NAACP branches to come to participate in this meeting to take back to their respective cities to try to emulate what we're doing here. Because again, with the 42 branches, this is quite unique because again, you being the president might not have a relationship with the sheriff or Chief Passwater. So this is something on how we can improve those relationships and communication piece to build those bridges. So, and that's what this session is going to be about, building trust, in the community. The workshop title, Let's Talk. We will continue our conversation about building trust in our respective communities and topics of traffic stops, inequalities in black communities, accountabilities, and solutions. So those are the topics. And so again, the one that was at Tinley Park, well attended, a lot of interaction, and I was really amazed with the dialogue from the respective participants of the questions, quite open, regarding traffic stops, the 10 shared principles, and again, Sheriff Passwater, I have not forgotten the email from your commander. What's his name? The one that Claudia, myself, Kathy. So we have about 5 individuals that's going to visit those shifts. So we just been inundated with some other things, but you saw the last email, right? So we're going to be at 6.
Text them or email them back when you guys can.
Yeah, we got the time, but it's there. As a matter of fact, it'll be talked about again tonight and tomorrow. And we just want those key people to be there at the 6 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 15, 20 minutes.
Right. So but then again, that's that building that trust, and where people can associate faces with individual titles. So anything else? So we got the update from Bradley. So where are we with body cams with the city?
Actually, we're probably gonna put a bid out next week or later this week, put a bid out to get them and then see where we're at. Maybe November, December, we can get them on and get them at least in, or maybe start operating them then.
Right, Sheriff?
We have received our body cameras, computers, all the equipment, and we have installed some in the cars. We are in the process of installing all of it, and then the company will come down and train our staff. So we do have the equipment.
Right. You okay, Al?
Yeah, we've been up and running.
Right. Anything from the state's attorney's office? No? Thank you. Anyone else? None?
This has just been an exercise in transparency. When you think in terms of the subject matter, the feedback, you know, the mayor, police chief, the sheriff, and the other folks who've, on the record, you know, this is a live stream, nobody's bullshitting. You know, they're speaking, you know, factually.
Truth to power.
Yeah, truth to power. And facts don't lie, as I always say. You know, kudos, you know,
Yeah.
for this meeting.
Yeah. I just want to say again, when it initially, the sheriff, Alderman O'Brien, we talked, Chief Phelps, and it just mushroomed from Ferguson, and so here we are now, talking about continue to build that trust, and the only other option that we have, and I know Professor Stroud left, and so Al, who's the new professor that took Bridget's spot? Do we need to?
Joe,
Can we get
just-
that contact information to
just
have
sent
them
something
attend?
hold on a minute.
And then while you're looking that up, Sheriff, can you look up where are we at the Career Center with law enforcement classes and at KCC? I normally go speak out at ONU and at KCC. Again, we are short of officers, and that was one of the questions, Commander Austin, that came out of that session, by building a positive relationship, Mayor, in your respective community. And the question is now we might have to grow our own officers. And I know you've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah.
So,
And also, don't forget one subject matter we've been derelict in terms of not discussing what's the status of the Civilian Review Board in terms of police department.
yeah. Well,
I know, Mayor, you've been, you know,
yeah, we're gonna get with them, and Jim.
Joe Simpson is from
Joe
KCC.
Simpson. So we need to get that contact information with that. So with that, yeah, I'm gonna meet with the, we're gonna meet with the, with Mayor Curtis and Jim, and yes, sir. Yeah,
I'm sorry. One of our big problems right now is the overdose rate is way up. We're gonna possibility break the record of 2017.
what?
In 2017, we had 56 overdoses in this
Wow.
community.
So we're gonna,
I think that we need to get together
Like we
also
did
on
before.
this. This is a big, right into an epidemic again.
okay.
And
Right.
it needs to be stopped.
So you know what? So we can, Sheriff, State's Attorney, we can do that town hall meeting again, and figure out how, we can get that out into the community. Yeah. All right. Motion to adjourn? Moved by the sheriff, second by Ms. Lori Gadboy. Thank you for coming.